So Airbnb is sabotaging your short-term rentals business. And I'm going to share with you in the next few slides the number of things that Airbnb has done that kind of conflicts with Airbnb hosts. I mean, they did it as a business decision, but if you use any of their tools, they don't really work so well, right? So let me know, does anybody know the background story of Airbnb, how they started, how they got their start? Like their origin story. Like I just told you my origin story, how I started. I got fired and then I made the rash decision to start a business. It was very risky at the time, but I'm so happy I made that decision because I've been running my own business full time since 2010. But do you know the backstory of Airbnb? Do you know their origin story? It's pretty interesting. So Airbnb's origin story is they too were broke, just like me. They were broke like a joke, right? Back in 2007, Airbnb and their co-CEOs had no money to pay their rent. That's crazy and wild. They finished college. They were college roommates. They could not pay their rent like Martine couldn't pay her rent. And they were living in San Francisco. So these three crazy men, young men, decided that it was a smart idea to rent out their living room space. They put an air mattress on the living room floor for people who are coming to a design show in San Francisco. So that's how they got started. They got started out of desperation, right? And as you know, what happened after that, they're $1 billion business, right? So they made so much money. And so they started pretty much how most people start, by accident. So they rented out their airbed and then they started to make money and so forth. This is in 2007. In 2008 is when they really got put on the map. Does anybody know what happened in 2008 politically? One of my favorite presidents, my very, very, very favorite charming presidents. What happened in 2008, y'all? I've seen the story on YouTube. I love their story. I've gone to conventions and the CEO has been there, like short-term rental convention, and he tells the funniest stories about how they started in the past. But in 2008, Obama was about to get nominated at the DNC. And the folks at Airbnb, at the time they lived in San Francisco. So they put all over the press that the hotels put in the press, they don't have enough space for all these people. There were like 280,000 people descending to the DNC. I believe it was in Denver. Yes, in Denver. And it was all over the news. We have nowhere to put people. So in hospitality, this is called blackout date, right? So every market has a blackout date. There's something that comes into your market where there's no space. So Airbnb was growing. They were brand new in their infancy. People are still sleeping on their mattresses, their airbeds in the living room. And they said, oh my God, let's go on the blog post and let's start making ads. All the Obama fans can invite other Obama fans in their homes and they can use Airbnb. And that's what they did. And it went crazy. And that's when Airbnb got put on the map, right? So that's when people started to know about Airbnb. People who were traveling found out about Airbnb because of this stunt that they pulled for the DNC. But there was a little problem. Their background is design. They knew absolutely nothing about hospitality, just like I knew nothing about hospitality. So Airbnb did exactly what I did. So they ran their business in 2008 to 2013, in the dark, by luck. And eventually what they did was they hired a mentor. This is his name right here. His name is Chip Conley. He came on board as their hospitality mentor, and he ran successful hotels all around the country under the brand called Joie de Vivre. And he was incredibly successful. You probably never heard of him because he's not a Marriott, he's not a Hilton, but Airbnb loved him because he was an underdog and he knew his stuff. And he really knew hospitality. So they brought him on board and he totally turned their business around. Even though Airbnb was making millions, they were not making a profit. So they decided to educate themselves, just like I decided to educate myself. So they brought Chip Conley on board and he taught them hospitality from 2013 to 2017. That's actually 4 years. This says 3 years, 4 years. And he taught them everything that he learned about running his hotel. So do you think Airbnb shared this with their hosts? Do you think they shared with you guys how to run hotels? because that would make sense, right? If you start any other business like drop shipping, like let's say you go on Shopify and you want to start a dropshipping business, Shopify has masterclasses that teaches you how to do that. If you want to run Facebook ads has masterclasses to learn how to run Facebook ads. Google ads, same thing. They all have these little masterclasses for free because the more money you make for yourself, for your business, the more money they make. So do you think Airbnb created masterclasses for their hosts because they educated themselves by hiring Chip, who literally turned their business around and helped them go public in 2020? Somebody said no in the chat. You already know they did it. They didn't do nothing to teach y'all. They did not teach you guys nothing. And I am so sad to share with you that Airbnb will never educate their hosts on hospitality, even though they took the time 4 years to educate themselves. They're not going to educate you. Just to be fair, why do you think Airbnb won't educate you? It's a conflict that why they won't educate you. They need you to stay on the platform. Airbnb has no inventory, right? So it's not in their best interest to educate you. They have no inventory. They don't own an Airbnb hotel. There's no Airbnb inn. So their inventory are your properties. So this is the powerful thing about being an Airbnb host. Your property is the business, not Airbnb. So if you learn your business, like if you educate yourself on your traveler and your market and what you can do with your property, you won't need to depend on Airbnb anymore because you are the business. Airbnb is just a tool, right? So because they have no inventory, it's not in their best interest to educate you. So I want to tell you guys a funny story. A few years ago, I think it was 2022, Yahoo Finance wrote an article on the left-hand side. It says Airbnb stock falls after short report says hosts directly compete with the platform. So somebody wrote a blog, somebody who runs short-term rental business wrote a blog on how you can run your business without Airbnb. And as soon as the investors read that, they freaked out and Airbnb stock started to drop. So this is a huge no-no. They will never educate you. All the things they learned from Chip, all the things they learned on how to run a hotel to turn around their business, they can't teach you those things. Because if they did, then you would start to stray away from the platform. Then you would go out and start using other platforms, and then they would lose your market share. So because they have no inventory, they can't do that. So that's why it's a huge conflict, right? So Airbnb competitors also, by the way, after Chip came on and taught them everything about hospitality, all their competitors pretty much went out of business. Have you guys ever heard of these companies right here? House Trip, vacationrentals.com, Roomorama, Flipkey. Let me know if you've heard of Wimdu. They're all out of business. They came on the scene about 2011 to 2017. I literally did business with all of them. Roomorama, sometimes I'd have guests stay with me and I would not get paid. The guests would leave and I would have to email them and say, hey, I didn't get paid. So a lot of these businesses were running like Airbnb wasn't, like myself, right? We didn't know what we were doing. So once Airbnb invested in their education, they really beat these people out the game. And so House Trip went under. They got bought out by, I believe they got bought out by by Flipkey. Then Vacation Rentals got bought out by HomeAway. HomeAway got bought out by VRBO. VRBO got bought out by Expedia, which is a hotel brand. Wimdu got bought out by a hotel. So as you can see, there's a hotel theme going here. All of these companies went under. Airbnb is the last man standing. Let me know if you heard of these companies that I just mentioned right here. Vacation Rentals was pretty cool. I used to pay $99 a year to join them, and they used to bring me tons of business in New York City. Roomorama also was good. I would be like this. Every time they would send me a guest, I'll be like, I hope I get paid. I swear to God, it was college students running their business in a dorm at Roomorama. Everybody was trying to get a piece of the pie. And the last man standing is Airbnb, because they really invested in understanding how hospitality works. But they did not share with you guys how to run your business. So here's some more bad press on Airbnb hosts. Have you guys seen this article? This is a few years old. This happened during the Super Bowl. Now I want to see if you guys are paying attention. Class is in session. So the Super Bowl came in Phoenix, right? There's no space for hotels in Phoenix. What does that mean in hospitality? What's the word I just taught you guys? I want to see if you guys are paying attention. The Super Bowl comes in Phoenix in 2023, I believe. the 2023, I believe. And all the hotels are booked solid. What is the word I told you? What is the terminology I told you that was? I said it earlier when I was talking about Denver. Blackout day. Bravo. Stacy's paying attention. See, you're learning. So every market has a blackout date. Phoenix had their blackout date when they had the Super Bowl. I believe it was in 2023, right? But the craziest thing happened. The New York Times, it was so crazy that the New York Times had to write about it. These Airbnb hosts went out and purchased property for the Super Bowl, specifically in Phoenix, Arizona. Pay attention. One of you guys are in Phoenix. They purchased property for like $600,000. Remember I told you in the beginning that we're going to do rental arbitrage? That's what we do. And when you're starting out, you want to do rental arbitrage. You don't want to purchase. But even if you do purchase, this should not happen because it's a blackout date in Phoenix. All the Airbnb hosts stayed empty. And so the New York Times had to write an article about this. They were like, ahead of the Super Bowl, short-term rentals fumbled in Phoenix. Homeowners and investors were banking on a big payday, but an oversaturated vacation rental market and nearly full hotels have dampened those prospects. It was not because it was oversaturated, it's because the host did so many dumb stuff that nobody booked their properties. If you go and read the article on New York Times, the host herself says with her mouth, this is multiple hosts, not one host, lots of hosts, that somebody on their Facebook group told them to triple their rates. And so the hotels were charging $400 a night, and the host thought it was a good idea to charge $1,200 a night. That's a big no-no in hospitality, right? So this means they were not using dynamic pricing. And so by doing that, nobody booked their place. Because if you're a traveler and you see places for $500, $400, even though it's a blackout date, $1,200 is not part of the game. And so they all stayed empty. By the time they realized the mistake they had made, it was too late. And so the money that they spent for these $600,000 homes, beautiful homes, stayed empty. And so there's always bad press on Airbnb hosts, but guess what? Airbnb is not going to educate you. You could write all the bad press in the world. They will not spend a dime educating you guys on how to run your business properly, right? These things are just going to continue happening. And what's going to happen is the hosts are just going to leave the market and they're going to be like, well, Airbnb is dead. It's not working. Clearly Airbnb is not dead, right? Because there's so many hotels being built and all these hotels were booked and busy, right? And it was a blackout day. So that's just a lot of bad press that the hosts get over the years. So what does it look like when you understand your market? I'm going to use my own property as case study. In my program, before you pick a property, and before, even if you live in the market, the first thing you do is market research because we model our program after hotels. That's what hotels do. The first thing hotels do when they are, and hotel investors do, when they're going into a new market, they use a company called Smith Travel Research, right? That company costs an arm and a leg. Airbnb hosts don't have to have the money. But we have other tools that we can use to analyze a market. And so when they shut me down in New York City, I had to pick new markets. So I picked St. Louis as my first market because I thought it was an exciting market and there was not a lot of people paying attention to it. And I wanted to get in there before other people started to go out there. But before I went out there, I knew nothing about St. Louis. I had never even visited St. Louis. I didn't even know a single soul in St. Louis, but I had my tools because I have my, I educated myself when I went to school and I learned about hospitality. So I had my research tools. I didn't use Smith Travel Research because I can't afford it, but there's other tools that I use to research and we use that in our program, right? So how did I analyze the market? I found out who was visiting St. Louis, why were they visiting St. Louis, where were they coming from, and what was attracting them to St. Louis. And when I did my research, I found out that the reason why they were visiting was because St. Louis is really big in baseball. There's also a top 10 hospital in St. Louis. It's called Barnes Jewish Medical Center. There's also a convention center in St. Louis, right? And so I decided, okay, I have to pick one of these. I can't do all because the property's not going to be close to all those things. So either it's the hospital or the baseball. So even though I'm not a baseball fan, looking at my data, because everything I do in my program is based on data and research, I decided I was going to go with baseball, right? So it makes total sense for me to have gotten a property right across the street from the stadium. So this property here on the right-hand side, if you look at the calendar, booked solid. I had never been to St. Louis in my life, but I use my tools. I use my market research tools. I analyzed the market and I picked the property that would fit my traveler. And the travelers love this property. The children love it. When they go to watch baseball, they can literally stand in the living room and see the ballpark. And so it's a big hit. It got voted guest favorite. You can see that it's voted guest favorite right here. It got 5-star reviews on Booking.com. It does incredibly well on VRBO. During the slow seasons, Booking.com keeps me so busy. And during the busy seasons, I'm always booked and busy, right? And so that's what it looks like when you analyze your market and you do what the hotels are doing. And so what I did was I picked a niche, which is sports travel, to attract baseball lovers. Believe it or not, there are 29 million people every single year visiting St. Louis, and the majority of them are going to see baseball because St. Louis is the gateway to the Midwest. And so I learned all that through data and research. So I got a property that is right inside of Ballpark Stadium. So baseball season is between March to the end of October. So a lot of people like to ask me, so what do you do after that? We got convention center. I'm 5 minutes away from the convention center. So now I have business travelers. I also have the expo center, right? So we have concerts, performances, and business travelers are going for business events, which is year round at the convention center. And just like that, I was able to analyze the market in less than an hour, and I picked the St. Louis market. Once I got comfortable with St. Louis, I did the next best thing. I focused on the group travel market. Now, group travel is how hotels make all their money. They don't make their money from your girlfriends going out to a town. They make their money from weddings, conventions, meetings, events, sports events, all sorts of these large events where blocks of people take up rooms, thousands at a time. So that's to make their money. Obviously, I can't do that, but group travel means 10 or more. So once I got comfortable with St. Louis with that first property, I went and got more. I got bigger properties. So now I'm focusing on the group travel market. That's 10 more people. And if you look on my calendar, you'll see people are paying me $700 a night, $500 a night, $800 a night. Because when you focus on group travel, they'd rather pay me than to pay the hotel for five rooms. Because if you're traveling with 10 people, you're gonna need 4 rooms, right? So business travelers stay with me, displaced families stay with me, people who are coming for baseball games as a group stay with me, friends, reunions, family reunions, because the place could seat 14 guests. So that's what I did. I focused on a niche, I focused on a market, and I analyzed it. So that's the first step of starting your business. Airbnb is not going to teach you that. So what most hosts are doing, they're taking their properties and throwing it up on Airbnb and going like this, but that doesn't work anymore because there's 4 million people on the platform. So next up, I picked another market, downtown Houston. Martine had never been to Houston in her life, not even once. But again, I use the same tools that hotels use when I do my market research. I analyze the Houston market, who's coming to Houston, why are they coming, and where are they staying? So Houston has people coming for business. They have a convention center. Houston also has a space center that is really big with international travelers, the NASA Space Center. Literally, it's so funny. When I was going to check out this property last year, I was sitting on the flight to JetBlue, and I had already done my market research because I used the data, and I already knew that 1 million travelers come from outside the country to visit Houston every year. And it also has a convention center that brings in lots of travelers. About 30 million people come every year into Houston. But in real time, it was funny because I was sitting on the plane and I heard the guy, what do you call it? The steward, they don't say that word anymore. The attendant talking to the person sitting in front of me. He was just doing small talk. And he was like, why are you guys visiting Houston? And they said, we're going to the Space Center. I was like, oh my God, that's right spot on with my research. And so I do a lot of research before I get a market. And so that's what I teach my students. And so if you look at my calendar here, you see it's fully booked. A person who's never visited Houston in her life, I used my tools. I did my market analysis. I understood who was coming to Houston. People are coming downtown to party with their friends as a group. People are coming to the George R. Brown Convention Center, which is 5 minutes away from this property downtown. And people are coming to visit the Space Center. So most of my people who come to visit me, they don't come for the Space Center because Space Center is too far. Most of them come for the Convention Center because they tell me why they're coming, and also to party. And so this is my calendar for August and September of last year. Booked, solid, and the property also got voted guest favorite, just like the one in St. Louis. So I focus on the group travelers, that's 10 or more travelers, convention people, because I'm 5 minutes away from the convention center, and just regular people who come and travel with their friends who want to stay downtown in Houston. So if you are in a market and you're not familiar with your market, you probably won't be, even if you live there. You have to do your market analysis first. That's what I do. That's what all of my students in my program do. We can't move any further if we don't do that. And we literally copy and paste what the hotels are doing, and we have a high success rate. So secret number 2, how Airbnb is sabotaging you. They are literally undermining you by creating tools that hurt your business. Let me know if you're an Airbnb host and you use their tools. Let me know if you are currently an Airbnb host and what tools that Airbnb has out there for you that you use, and I will tell you stories. So the sad thing is Airbnb plays on your lack of education because they know that a lot of hosts are not aware of how to run a hotel or how hotels operate. They just throw these trash tools at you that are not effective. So when Chip Conley joined Airbnb, he had huge experience running hotels. At the time, just like myself, remember I told you guys when I started, I wasn't making any money in January because I didn't know anything about dynamic pricing. So these guys didn't know anything about dynamic pricing either. Like who goes around learning about stuff like that? Like nobody goes online to learn these things. That's boring stuff. But you need to know it to run your business. So Chip Conley comes on board and he tells the guys, hey, you guys don't have a dynamic pricing tool. How are the hosts, pricing their properties? Everybody's like, oh, we don't know. Everybody doesn't know anything about those things. They're just 3 schmucks that started their businesses, in their living room. So Chip Conley helps them, create this dynamic pricing tool that's called smart pricing. The problem with smart pricing is it's trash. So smart pricing is no good because what it does is it focuses on your occupancy rate. Its job is to bring up your occupancy rate without making you profit, right? And it's also not a real dynamic pricing tool. It will sacrifice profit for bookings. Drop in the chat why you think everybody needs you to get bookings. Like they're a publicly operated business. They need you to get bookings, right? You need to make money for them. So they created this trash tool called smart pricing so that you can get bookings. The problem is when you get the bookings, in order to get these bookings, it will drop your rates at the most ridiculous rate so you can get that booking. And it will sacrifice your profit. The other thing is Airbnb can actually collaborate with the amazing AI tools that are out there for you to dynamically price your property, but it doesn't. Because if it did, then you would once again have to leave the platform to do that. So they keep everything in-house. We have Price Labs, we have Wheelhouse, we have Beyond. All 3 of these tools, the people who created them all worked for hotels in the past, right? So they know what needs to be in these tools for you to make money, right? They worked for OTAs. I'll talk to you later what OTAs are, online travel agencies. And so they know they have experience working for hotels. And so they created these tools specifically for short-term rental operators. But Airbnb doesn't introduce those tools to you because if they did, it would hurt their business. So instead, they launched this smart pricing tool. Unfortunately, when you use the smart pricing tool, you could literally be booked and busy and not make $1 in profit. But at least you got bookings and Airbnb gets their cut. And so that's why you're there. You're there to get bookings for them, right? And so that's why a lot of hosts who are using smart pricing, they're not seeing any profit. So I'm going to share with you a story about my student, Mel. Mel is a great dynamic pricing story. So Mel joined my program November of 2023. She had already finished somebody else's mentorship program. And that mentor gave Mel a beautiful 5-bedroom home that she's renting because we only do rental arbitrage in the program. And most mentors, other mentors teach their students to only do rental arbitrage. You can test the market. And she got a beautiful 5-bedroom property in Hollywood, Florida. Mel was paying so much money for that property. So Mel's husband was following me. He's a realtor. And he came in my DMs. He said, hey, my wife is an Airbnb host. I think she needs your help. I said, cool, let's get on a call. So I get on a call with Mel and her husband. And I say, hey, Mel, tell me about your property. She's like, Martine, I got this beautiful property. It's a 5-bedroom home. It sleeps 15 people. Drop in the chat. What niche is that? I want to know if you guys are following instructions. What niche is that when you have a property that sleeps 15 people? I told you earlier when I was talking about my Houston property. What niche is that if you could see 15 people in your property? It's a is it 5 bedroom? It's a 5 bedroom property with a pool, beautifully designed because Mel is an interior designer and it sleeps 15 people. Group travel, bravo! So Mel's property is for the group travel market, right? And so she got one property with the hopes of making all her money with that one property. Problem is, Mel was operating her business in a minus. She signed her lease July 2023. She finished somebody else's program. I didn't even ask her how much she paid for the program because I get upset when people tell me how much they pay for other people's program, then they come and pay me and then I charge less. So I didn't ask her. I didn't want to know. And so I was like, Mel, tell me about your property. She said, Martina, I have a 5 bedroom property located in Hollywood, Florida. It's beautiful because I'm an interior designer. I spent a lot of money decorating it. Martine, ever since I got the property, I've been operating in a minus. And I said, I just sat there dumbfounded. I was like, Mel, what do you mean you're operating in a minus? How much is your rent? She said her rent was $5,800 for a property that sleeps 15 people. I was like, whoa, I said, that's a lot of money. I said, how much money are you making in booking? She said, Martine, I can't even pay the cleaning lady. Me and my sister have to clean the property ourselves because we can't afford to pay the cleaner. I was like, Mel, that is super strange. I said, how much does AirDNA says the property should make? She said, AirDNA says it should make about 100,000. I think it was 135,000. I was like, are you making anything close to that? She said, I'm not even making half of that. So I started to dig more. I was like, where are you located? How far away are you from a hotel? She said, I'm driving distance, not too far away from the Hard Rock Cafe. I was like, hold up one second. The Hard Rock Cafe where Anna Nicole Smith died, that Hard Rock Cafe? She was like, yeah. I was like, Mel, I don't know how many rooms the Hard Rock Cafe has, but it's way more than what you have because you already have one home. And I was like, so we started digging. I started digging, asking her more questions. I said, Mel, this makes absolutely no sense. The thing with AirDNA is AirDNA will give you a number because AirDNA assumes that you know how to run your business. I said, Mel, if you are within 10 minutes drive from Hard Rock Cafe and you have a property for the group travel market, it is impossible for you to be in a minus every single month. I have a feeling I know what the issue is. When you sign up for my program, let's make a bet. If you don't start making money in 60 days, I'm gonna give you back your money. So we made a bet. So within a matter of days, we started analyzing her market. So what did we do? We found out that Mel was within less than 5 minutes drive from the number 4 cruise port in the world, which is the Fort Lauderdale cruise port. She was also 5 minutes drive from the convention center. And we already know that the Hard Rock Cafe is not far from her, which makes no sense. If the Hard Rock Cafe is booked and busy, you need to be booked and busy. So we analyzed her market. I said, Mel, you can literally market to cruisers who need a place to sleep before and after the cruise. You can literally market to people who are coming for conventions at the convention center in Fort Lauderdale. And I said, what about your price slabs? Is your price slab set up? She said her mentor set up her price slabs. I said, I know you told me you had a mentor, but who set up the price slabs? She said the mentor. I said, okay, we're gonna have our hotel expert set up your price slabs for you. Within less than 30 days, Mel's property started to make $10,000 in bookings. By 60 days, she almost hit 20K that month. I literally have Mel on record saying that because I know people think I make stuff up. I literally have her on record saying that on my link that I'm going to send to you later and on my website and on my social media. Like we literally turned her business around by analyzing her market. She was already in the group travel, but she didn't know her market, how to attract travelers. Cruisers are over 40 and business travelers who are coming for the convention center. Our hotel expert set up her price slabs himself, not through a course, but himself. He got on, connected her price slabs with her property, and literally in 30 days, she started to get $10,000 bookings, $20,000 bookings for the month, and she wasn't even 100% occupied. When I spoke to Mel in January, she was about to hit the $200,000 mark. She didn't hit it, but way more than 135 that AirDNA had projected. And this is what happens when you don't understand your business. So we had to work backwards with Mel because she already had her property and she was in Hollywood. So we worked backwards and we analyzed her market, let her understand her market. Because it makes absolutely no sense for you to be within driving distance, not too far, like 10, 15 minutes away from the Hard Rock Cafe, and you're not getting bookings, and so close to cruise port. So people who are coming for cruises are paying Mel $1,000 a night because she's in the group travel, market. They rather pay her than pay like 6 hotel rooms for 12, 15 people. And I said to her, Mel, what kind of people are visiting nowadays? She said, business travelers for the convention center and cruisers. I said, there you go. And just like that, she started to make money and she doesn't have to clean her property anymore. And so this is the power of dynamic pricing. When you understand how to properly price your property by using AI, we use Price Labs for her, and we had our hotel expert who works for hotels and who also owns hotels set up her Price Labs for her. I don't set up Price Labs because I prefer our expert to do that. And you shouldn't be setting up your Price Labs either because you don't understand hospitality. So when Mel's mentor did that, she did her a great disservice. So now Mel's business is in the black. She sent me the snapshot a few months ago. Total revenue, $12,000. This is for 5 bookings. It's charging $779 a night at 58% occupancy rate. She's not even 100% booked, and she had $12,000 booking. So she went from minus to booked and busy. And that's how we were able to turn around her business. And now she's always booked and busy, and she's ready to scale. Until you make a profit, you can't scale and get more properties, right? So this is another student of ours. Her name is Crystal. She also had finished somebody else's mentorship. For some reason, people come to my program and they finish other people's mentorship. And she had her property already. And she sent me this message right here. Martine, you legit have changed my business. I'm so thankful to have taken your course and participated in the VIP sessions. It's been about a month and I've taken the steps suggested to scale my business. And now she can focus on scaling her business and so forth. And so I have a lot of students like that. They are in a minus, they're not making any money, and then we help turn around the business. So secret number 3, this one gets under my skin. I hate it so much. I'm always talking bad about it. By the way, if I talk trash about these products, I don't use them. Secret number 3, let me know if you know about this, the Airbnb friendly landlord program. Let me know if you have heard about that. Airbnb is so sneaky, always sneaking in little things in there. Around 2022, Airbnb rolled out a new program. They realized that Airbnb hosts are having problems getting properties, so they came up with the brilliant idea of getting landlords to sign up with their Airbnb-friendly landlord programs. Now, a lot of coaches like to tout this program, but I absolutely hate it. And the reason why I hate it is a lot of hosts don't realize what's going on here. So Airbnb has the Airbnb friendly landlord program. You're a landlord, you sign up for it, right? You get to hike your rent 15%, 20% more because somebody's running the business on your property. And then Airbnb gets to take 25% of your payout every single booking and hand over to the landlord. And you're also paying the landlord monthly rent. Let me give you an example. I was looking at Nashville because Nashville is a great market. And I found an Airbnb friendly landlord on Airbnb. And I was like, oh, this looks cool. So I go online to their website. They're charging $4,700 a month. And I'm like, what? I go on Zillow, and that is not what other landlords are charging. And I'm like, this makes absolutely no sense. They're charging 20% more than the market. And then when I dig more into the program, Airbnb takes, I'm like, I never did this program before, so I was, trying to find out about it. I'm like, so how did the landlord get paid? Airbnb takes your payout and pays the landlord before you even see that money. They take 25% of your payout and hands over to the landlord. And then so when you're left over with that money, you take whatever's left over and you pay rent to the landlord. What kind of scam is that? I was like, this program is total trash. The only people winning here are the landlord and Airbnb. This is a terrible business model, especially if you are a new host. A lot of new hosts don't realize when you are starting out, your profit margin is 40 to 45%, 50 if you're lucky. So when you're paying the landlord 20% markup for the rent, and then the Airbnb is taking 25% to give to the landlord for allowing you to run your business on their property, what do you have left for yourself? Once again, you make no profit, right? So let me know if you're familiar with this program and if you signed up with this program, if you've heard about it. I am not a fan of this program. My students are not allowed to sign up with it. And if they do, I tell them straight up, you might be left with no profit at the end of the month. I need you to understand that. So if you do this program, it's literally so you could train. It's like a training thing where you could train yourself on how to run a hotel. So if it's okay with you to not make profit, I guess you can do it. But it's not a great program. And again, it's just another product that Airbnb has made out there for them to make money. Revenue means paying bills for the property, right? Revenue means all the money you make. So let's say you make $6,000 in bookings. So that's your revenue for the month. Profit is how much you make after you pay your bills. So what Airbnb does is you pay, let's say you made $4,000 for the month. If your rent is $4,700, you're already in the minus. So it doesn't even make any sense. So even if you make $6,000 for the month, by the time you finish paying the hiked up rent and the 25% every single payout to the landlord, you have very little left, especially if you're a newbie. Like if you're an advanced host, you might make profit. If you're really clever, you could figure out ways to rent the property outside of Airbnb. But if you're a newbie, you're left holding the bag, you know? And so I'm not a fan of this. And if you sign up for it, you should know that you're going to be left holding the bag. You're not going to be making much profit. So that's another program that Airbnb does that I don't like. So I'm going to share with you my mentee, Henry, here. Henry lives in St. Louis. He saw me posting about St. Louis all last year, and he joined my program. He was like, Martine, I want you to be my mentor. I was like, awesome. I said, Henry, I think it's so awesome that somebody who lives in St. Louis is going to make money from St. Louis because I'm an outsider. And a lot of people in St. Louis don't like that because it's like a little secret. It's a gold mine. It's a lot of money to be made in St. Louis. It's not Vegas. It's not Miami. It's not New York City, but it holds its place in the Midwest, right? And a lot of people don't realize that. So he joined my program. He fixed his credit. He got his credit scores to be over 700. He works a 9 to 5, just like I did when I started my business. So I didn't want Henry to make the mistake that I made, which was taking my 401k money to start a business. So we introduced him to our funding team. And he borrowed $25,000 at 0% interest rate for 1 year. And then we introduced him to an Airbnb-friendly landlord, not the ones on Airbnb, but a landlord that our property locators found for him. No revenue share, no hiked up market rate rent, regular market rate rent. So he's paying $2,100 a month for a beautiful property. Remember I told you guys that one of the attractions of St. Louis is the hospital? So we did our market analysis. I already knew the market. So he got his property directly across the street from the hospital. So he's going to be focusing on medical travelers, doctors and nurses and patients who are going to be going to this top 10 hospital. It's called Barnes Jewish for his property. So he pays $2,100 a month, and AirDNA has projected his property to make $60,000 a year. So that's what we do in our program. We do not support the Airbnb friendly landlord program because it's not good for you. It's just bad. It's just bad. And Airbnb just figures out, you guys don't know that your profit margin is only 45%. A lot of hosts don't know that. When you first start out, your profit margin is 45 to 50%. So when you go give your 45 to 50% to the landlord, you're left with minus, right? And so Henry got himself a beautiful 3-bedroom loft located across the street from one of the top 10 hospitals in the country. And he sent me this WhatsApp message. He said, Martine, I got approved for 25K. And he was telling me about his LLC and so forth. So yeah, so Henry is a local who lives in St. Louis. Even though he lives in St. Louis, I still have to tell him about the market because he lives there, but he doesn't travel there. And so, but it's easier for him to navigate because it's his backyard, right? And so St. Louis is a great market. There's other great markets in the Midwest also. So that's what we do. We help our students through our property locator to find property so that you don't have to depend on the terrible Airbnb friendly landlord program because this is not looking out for your best interests. Secret number 4, how you guys liking the secrets about how Airbnb is shafting you guys? Now, secret number 4 really pisses me off because don't forget, Airbnb is a business. They got to do what they have to do. But the problem is the things that they're doing is directly hurting us as hosts. So in 2018, just as Chip was leaving, I honestly don't know if Chip had anything to do with this, but Chip taught them everything they knew about running hotels. Airbnb quietly allowed hotels to list on the platform. They didn't make a big deal about it. They didn't make a big announcement. Obviously, it's a conflict because you're an Airbnb host. Most likely you don't know much about running a hotel. How unfair is it for hotels to now be listing on the platform that they created in their living room, renting out airbeds to travelers? That is the opposite of why they started their business, right? They started a business for the everyday man to run a hotel. The problem is they did not teach us how to run a hotel. So because we don't know how to run a hotel, they're not making any money. A lot of people don't realize that since Airbnb started in 2008, they have been operating in a minus. It took them a long, long time to start operating in the black, right? And so because of that, a lot of that is because of lack of education and a number of things. And so they decided to let hotels on because hotels know how to make money. And Airbnb knew in 2020 that they were going to go public and they needed to show profit. So they quietly allowed hotels on the platform. And if you go in their newsroom on the right-hand side, they announce the things that they're doing quietly, and the press doesn't pick up on it, and Airbnb hosts don't pick up on it. But they're letting hotels list on the platform. It's really unfair because hotels have a lot of ways of making money, and all we have is Airbnb. That's the main tool. And so now they've let the biggest competition ever to take a piece of our market share. And I think that's really crappy, even though it's a business decision they had to make because, we're not making money for them that much, but it's really like a conflict to do stuff like that. And so hotels have so many tools. They're professionally managed. They have a general manager. That's the person who oversees all of the hotel. They have the revenue management team. They're the ones who handles dynamic pricing. There literally is somebody sitting at a hotel desk 9 to 5, analyzing the pricing every single day, analyzing the tools every single day, analyzing special prices, discounts, all these things that they can do to bring heads in beds, right? There's a sales and marketing team that goes out and creates these conventions, that goes out and finds groups to come travel and stay with them. Wedding conventions, all the hotels are there. If you ever gone to a convention, you'll see the convention website will say, if you sign up with this hotel, you get 20% discount because we signed up with them. That's the sales and marketing team working behind the scenes, getting people into the hotel. So hotels are very professionally managed. We're not. They didn't train us. And so they let these hotels on. Airbnb hosts have no hotel experience. They don't know how to operate a hotel. Right? Nobody goes around trying to learn these things. Like nobody wakes up saying, oh, I think today I want to learn how to run a hotel. Like you literally have to go out of your way to do that. I had to go back to school. Like you can't find that on YouTube, right? And so because you don't have that background, you stay with no bookings, you make no money. And because of that, Airbnb let the hotels on. So the platform was created for the everyday person. So these are the tools that hotels use. Hotels have OTAs. OTA stands for online travel agency. Booking.com, Travelocity, Hotels.com, Trivago, Expedia. So they get to list their hotel inventory on those OTAs. Hotels also have the GDS. Let me know if you're familiar with the GDS. This stands for Global Distribution System. There's 100,000 of travel agents signed up with the GDS. It's like a backdoor software for hotels where they can go and book for their corporate travelers. We don't have that. We don't have access to the GDS. Sabre, Amadeus, Travelport, we don't have none of that stuff. And so now hotels are using Airbnb as their little niche tool, right? Because they want to attract certain types of travelers. Drop in the chat what kind of people use Airbnb. So in addition to the OTAs that they have and the GDS and their own website, which is a great marketing tool, hotels are now listing on Airbnb because they want to attract a niche traveler. Can you drop in the chat what kind of traveler that is? If you come to my other masterclass, you'll know this answer. If you've been at my other masterclass, you will know this answer. Who does Airbnb attract? Just take a wild guess. I'll give you a hint. If you're under 40, you should know that answer. What's that generation called? People who are under 40. Nobody? Nobody here's under 40? All of you guys are old like me? Millennials. So Airbnb is there to attract millennials. That's who their target market is, right? So hotels want to attract millennial travelers, so they list on Airbnb to attract the millennial travelers. A lot of people on Airbnb don't know that. They don't know that each platform attracts a certain type of traveler. Like Booking.com is for international travelers. Expedia, VRBO especially is for group travelers. So every platform has its own target market. Airbnb's target market is travelers, whether it's adventure, business, family, it doesn't matter. It's mainly for millennials. So hotels want a piece of that. And so Airbnb let them have a piece of it because we know we're not producing enough for Airbnb to report to the investors now that they're public. The problem is Airbnb hosts love to say Airbnb is dead because they don't use the other platforms that hotels use. They only use that one platform. And this is their biggest mistake. There are other platforms we could use. We may not be able to use the GDS, and we could use the GDS, but it's a lot of work. I don't even think it's worth it. But we can use the OTAs. A lot of Airbnb hosts don't even use that. They don't even know how to set it up. I don't know why. And so Airbnb hosts only focus on Airbnb. And that is a big no-no, right? Because if you are in a market and you want to attract corporate travelers, business travelers, convention travelers who are like 55 years old, they're not on Airbnb. And so by using that one platform, you're losing out so much money. So Airbnb should be used as a marketing tool, not just the one tool. And then you put your property on there and expect to make all this money. It's just a marketing tool. Just like the hotels use it as a marketing tool, that's what we do in our program. We use it as a marketing tool. It is our main marketing tool, but we have other marketing tools that we use also because we want to copy what the hotels do. So meet my student, Dominic. Dominic sent me this message on the 31st of December. I was so surprised to see it because we've been working all year long to get Dominic's prices right. So Dominic, again, another student who did somebody else's program. He did a huge influencers program who has 500,000 followers and who was on Business Insider 3 times. But this guy could not get Dominic's price lab set up right. I said, Dominic, what did this guy do? Because I like to know what these other coaches are doing. He said, he sent me a video on how to set up Price Lab. I said, are you kidding me? He sent you a video? You could just go on YouTube and watch a video if that's the case. So Dominic paid this guy a whole bunch of money to be his mentorship. And the guy sends Dominic a video on how to set up Price Labs. So Dominic comes to me literally at the top of the year, January 2024, and says, Martina, I want to join the program. I want to learn. I started talking about different markets and I'm interested. He was already doing rental arbitrage in Dallas. He was doing really well. But he wanted to use his Section 8 properties. As people started to move out of his Section 8 properties, he told me they were trashing his properties and treating his properties so bad that he wanted to transform his properties into Airbnbs, but he didn't know how to do that. So we started working on this project with Dominic, right? He owns multiple properties in Charlotte. He paid so little for them, $40,000, $75,000. I think the most I saw was $101,000 that he paid, and he rehabbed these properties and turned them into Airbnbs. You can see the properties on the right-hand side. This is the Airbnbs right here. This is from the Airbnb, his profile. So he decided to transfer them one by one into short-term rentals. Even though he had signed up with this large influencer, he wasn't getting any bookings. When he signed up with me, he had made $1,000 in January. By March, he had hit 20K. So I was busy with other students and doing so forth. And I get this WhatsApp message December 31st. And I said, oh my God, Dominic, those are your numbers. So Dominic was making $1,000 in January. By the end of the year, he brought in $170,886.23. And then he sends me a second message. It says that was only on Airbnb. I was like, holy cow. He said, it's not even counting Airbnb, VRBO. I said, so this means you make closer to 200K just in a year. Right? So what did we do for Dominic? Same thing we did for Mel, same thing I do for myself. Taught him about his market. He's in downtown Charlotte. Set up his Price Labs. We did not send him a video of Price Labs. We had our experts set up his Price Labs for him for all 5 of his properties. Right? And turn his business around one by one. By the 60th day, by the second month, he was hitting $20,000 a month. And then this year, I'm expecting Dominic to make even more because now he has all his tools in place. He has a PMS in place. He has a channel manager in place. He has, of course, he's using Airbnb because we love Airbnb, and he's using his AI tool for his dynamic pricing. And so, and in 1 year, he was able to make over 100, well, I want to say over 170 because I didn't even ask him how much he made on. I was so excited when I saw these numbers. I didn't even ask him how much he made on VRBO. And so just like that, Dominic started making so much money with his properties that he owns. Now, this is the best. I call this the best of both worlds. When you can own property and also make them short-term rentals, that is amazing. But first, you have to start off doing rental arbitrage because you want to be, you're like a trainer. You're training. You're like a little hotelier. You're training on how to run a hotel. And then once you have the experience, then you could go out and get your properties and purchase your properties because you know you're not going to lose your investment like those people did in Phoenix. So, what are Airbnb hosts doing that's so different from short-term rental operators? I'm going to share with you what Airbnb hosts are doing that's so different from short-term rental operators. Airbnb hosts, and it's not their fault, it's Airbnb hosts' fault, and it's also Airbnb's fault also. They're depending on luck to get bookings. They're still stuck where Airbnb was in 2008. Airbnb has outgrew us, unfortunately. They are a publicly held company. They have to report to investors. We are still sitting on the couch in the living room in 2008, and they just left us in the dust. You cannot depend on luck anymore to get bookings. You have got to understand how hotels operate in order for you to make money and 6 figures a year on Airbnb. Look how quick this man went and made 200K in 1 year. Just like that. Look how I made $250,000 in 1 year. I didn't even know anything, but I had luck on my side because I started before everybody else. I would not be able to do this now. They don't understand their travelers. Like I shared with you how I was able to analyze my market in St. Louis and Houston. So you need to understand your traveler. They only list on Airbnb. I shared with you the other platforms that hotels are using. They're not just using Airbnb, they're using Airbnb as a niche, but they're using OTAs, they're using GDS. We have other tools we can use. We don't only have to use Airbnb. That's why they're only making $13,000 a year. Like literally Airbnb reported that the hosts are only making $13,000 a year. So what's the difference with Airbnb hosts and short-term rental operators? Once you educate yourself, like Chip did for Airbnb, and you understand how hotels work, you conduct market research. Hotels use Smith Travel Research. We have our own tools that we use to analyze markets. We have the tourism board. You know, they're amazing. The funny thing about Smith Travel Research, guess what? They charge these hotels thousands of dollars. Where do you think they get their information from? Drop in the chat. They're charging hotels thousands of dollars for these reports. Where do you think they're getting the information from? The tourism board. They're getting it from tourism board and they're culling it and then charging the hotels thousands of dollars. How about we just go straight to the tourism board and get the data ourselves? That's what I do for all my markets. We do property research. We understand hotel sales and marketing. We understand revenue management. We understand our dynamic pricing, how it works. We don't use smart pricing. So for that, we earn $100K a year with our business. So that's the difference between a host who's on Airbnb and a short-term rental operator. So I think Stacy said she never gets bookings on VRBO. So VRBO is really good for group travel. What kind of property do you have? VRBO, by the way, like for example, my mentee that I just mentioned, Dominic, he hates Booking.com. He's like, Martine, I hate Booking.com. He does not like Booking.com. He only got all his bookings on Airbnb and VRBO. VRBO works really well if you have a group travel property. It works really well for bigger property. That's why you need to know the target market of your property and also of your town, right? So if you don't have a bigger property, VRBO may not work so well for you. So this is what a successful Airbnb operation looks like. You're the general manager of your hotel. You're also the operation manager because it's a one-man show, right? You need to learn how to run operations, cleaning staff, handyman, broken things, guests. General manager, bringing the money in. Property manager, handyman, you're handling the handyman and the contractors to fix things that are broken. And you know when the toilet backs up, it's going to be 2:00 in the morning. And your virtual assistant is running your business for you. Because once you scale, you won't be able to be doing all those things. So you're going to learn all these things and you pass it on to a virtual assistant who runs your business for you so that you won't be doing day to day. So this is what a successful operation looks like. So how do you build an Airbnb empire? You build an Airbnb empire by understanding hospitality fundamentals and securing other people's money. Now, you can't do that until you start to scale. Now, you could do that like Henry did, like on a small scale, like $25,000, but you really can't start getting cash, like 70,000 cash, 80,000 cash until you start making money with your business, right? And then you can scale. So let's recap what we have learned. Secret number one, you need to do market research. Without that, your business is going to fail. You need to know who's traveling to your market, why they're coming, how many people are coming, why they're visiting, where they're visiting, and how long they're staying. You need to know your dynamic pricing tool. If you don't have dynamic pricing, I just gave you an example of Mel, you might as well just shut it down. Because if Mel hadn't signed up with my program, she would have been in the minus. How long would she have ran her business in the minus? And she has a $5,800 a month rent. Impossible, right? So it's not sustainable. You need to understand dynamic pricing. Automation tools, you need to have your property management software, your channel manager, your AIs for your pricing, and other OTAs that you're using other than Airbnb so that your business is running like a hotel, not like an Airbnb host. And lastly, you need to understand that you're general manager of your hotel. Once you understand the first three, now it's your job to go out and secure more properties and secure funding so you can scale your little hotel. Right? So that's the 4 secrets of having a successful Airbnb business. This is how I transform my business. This is my real bank statements after I finished my program at NYU. Real bank statements. I was the queen of making $75,000 a month before it was even, I didn't even know it was a thing. People brag all day long about making $70,000 a month. I was quietly making my money. This is my bank statement right here. If you look at it, I don't know if you can see it. You'll see $70,000, $80,000 a month in 2014. That's like almost over 10 years ago. As soon as I finished understanding how hotels operate, I spent 2 years full time, learning hospitality from 2012 to 2014. I started to make $70,000, $80,000 a month, right? And I started to make so much money with my business because now I'm confident and I could run a hotel. Okay, guys, thank you so much. I will see if you have any questions, message me. Those of you who just started, I can't wait to help you build your business or turn your business around. Have a good evening and Happy New Year. Ciao. Arrivederci. Ciao, ciao.